In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we're going to be talking about something wild. A second home Bears victory this season. 2. Woo! We'll be also talking a little baseball, a little hockey, a little basketball. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Season is going on right now, so make sure you head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, how are you doing, my friend?
I am doing fantastic. This is actually a show where we're going to be talking about a lot of good stuff. And I just want to say one thing really quick. A little bit of baseball, a little bit. Do you remember what happened on Monday afternoon unexpectedly?
I do. I do.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Where were you? I was on lunch break at work, but where were you?
I was driving to the L to go to a doctor's appointment, and I was like, "What? What?" And I sent you a text because I was like, "I wonder if he's hearing this news." Because
Well,
I was listening to the score, and they stopped and they're like, "Hey, we've got some breaking news."
yeah, I was on lunch break. So I was with my boss and a new employee. So usually when we have a new employee come to our department, we go out for lunch on their first day. So we went out to Moe's on Higgins, way out west, just past Hoffman Estates. I don't know if it's still technically Hoffman Estates or Dundee, but it's off Higgins there by our new office. And it was good timing because I wasn't in the middle of a meeting or in the middle of doing something in the office. I was on lunch break. I order my food. Literally, when I sit down, all of a sudden, buzz, 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 buzz on my phone. I'm like, well, what's going on? And, I'm in my fan-sided chat group, writing for Cubby's Crib, and somebody posts a tweet from Ken Rosenthal, counsel to the Cubs. And I'm thinking at first, I'm like, oh, that's got to be a fake account, right? And I'm like, wait, no, that's his real account. And then I'm thinking, okay, is he tweeting something wrong? Is something, is this like a misinformation? And then all of a sudden, John Heyman and Jeff Passan and all these other outlets are tweeting it. And then it rained on me. And as I'm seeing this on my Twitter feed, my boss looks over to me, just sees me just mouth agape, staring at my phone. And then I go, holy shit. And then I tell him, and then my boss says, well, I know you're not getting any more work done today. And I'm like, probably not.
Yeah, it was wild news. I was not expecting that. I was not expecting that at all.
Well, nobody was. And I know we'll talk about this when we get into our baseball conversation, obviously after the Bears, but I mean, you heard the way they were so secretive of this whole thing. It didn't even register that was a possibility.
Right.
Crazy.
Uh,
But anyway, I'll get back to that when the time comes. We just got to get that very clear. Like when we say we're going to talk a little bit of baseball, this ain't just a little news.
yeah, this is big old news.
For some reason, when you told me you were in your car, I had this vision of you just driving straight and all of a sudden your car just yeets right off the road.
Oh no, but I definitely started just honking my horn like crazy, yelling out the window. We got a real manager.
What's that meatball doing honking his horn and shouting nonsense?
Woo! Craig Council. Woo!
Unbelievable. But hey, the Chicago Bears won a football game this week too.
You know, I'm going to consider it more of a they outlasted a worse team than they won a game.
That's correct. And I said this on Twitter. I said the less bad team came out on top. I mean, there was nothing really aesthetically pleasing about this win outside the fact that, yes, your defensive line got pressure. Montez Sweat, even though he didn't record a sack, he looked very good in that game. You know, it was a very good effort by the trenches on both sides of the ball. You ran effectively enough. But, I mean, you eked out a 16-13 win over the worst team in football. At the end of the day, though, when we're talking about draft position and, you know, Carolina's pick, the Bears needed to win a game, and they won the game at home. And I don't know about you, but I felt going to this game, I'm like, okay, the Bears should win this one. I felt like this was the first time this year where I truly felt like the Bears were in the driver's seat to win it. I didn't think it was going to be as close, to be honest with you. And I mean, I guess I'm a fool for that because it's the Bears, but I did feel pretty good that the Bears were going to at least win that game.
I mean, to be honest with you, is the first half the Bears got outplayed.
Mm-hmm.
But this was just a game. I mean, one offensive touchdown was scored. And just two bad teams. I don't know what else to say about it. This neither quarterback had posted over a 73 quarterback rating.
Yeah, no, and I mean, let's be real for a sec here. Tyson Bagent wasn't anything like he didn't lose you a game, obviously, because you won the game, but he didn't win you that game necessarily. I mean, you saw him try some deep balls. They were way off. They weren't really any good. He completed some short passes where you moved some chains, okay, but I mean, the run game was effective enough where you were able to score your one touchdown, and you had the leg of Cairo Santos give you several field goals. It really wasn't anything where I would point to and say, wow, the Bears really excelled at this on offense. I mean, the two things I could say about the offense was line held up okay. Foreman ran well again. And, you know, Cole Kmet made a nice few plays. But this isn't a game where you're going to be putting the quarterback play on any highlight reels.
No, the one thing you can take away with Tyson Bagent being quarterback, especially this last game against the Panthers, is that Justin Fields can take away is go to your check down. If there's nothing, just go to your check down. Instead, if that sack is coming, check down. Tyson Bagent went to the check down quite a bit. And I mean, basically most of this game was check down, check down, check down. And it kept the chains moving. And that's the one thing you can be like, oh, okay, that's a positive. But other than that is I don't know if Tyson Bagent was told he was not allowed to throw downfield. There was just very few passes going more than 10 yards.
And I mean, here's the thing though, the passes that did go deep weren't good passes. They just weren't.
They were not. Definitely weren't. There was some plays where he left tons of yards on the field because I don't know if he got coached to being gun shy or if after last week he got gun shy. It just didn't seem like he was feeling confident in making throws in tight windows. Because there was a Tyler Scott play where it's a touchdown and he just had to flip his hips and throw it. And he did.
He was wide open too.
He went to, he was wide open, but there was you had to flip your hips and throw it into, throw it to him. Is if you have a wonky throw there, it's getting intercepted. But if you get that ball to him, he's gone.
Yeah.
And he went to the check down. And, that's it is what it is with a D2 rookie backup quarterback. You just go, okay, I mean, that's what it is. But we have to hold Justin Fields to a different standard. And I'm not a Justin Fields hater. I'm not a Justin Fields stan. I'm just saying is we have to hold him to a higher standard because he's our starting quarterback that we spent a first round pick on. Justin Fields going to have to hit that one. Tyson Bagent, when he doesn't, you go, okay, I mean, that sucks. But he's not ready to be a starting quarterback right now.
Right. I mean, you look at the final numbers for Bagent just on the stat sheet without actually watching the game itself. You look at that and you say, okay, that's a backup quarterback right there.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not to say that he can't improve.
No, of course not.
But there's a reason that he didn't get drafted. There's a reason why he's not starting. And I know when that first game when we saw him, we're like, oh, hey, there's a lot of good things here. But there's also there's reasons why he's the backup. And look at the defense he's faced. The Panthers are their defense is fine when they're healthy, but they were missing a cornerback, they were missing an edge rusher, they were missing a linebacker. Like they're missing a lot of starters on the defense. Their best starters for the most part. So it's it's hard to judge when you're going against bad teams. You're like, okay, it's how do you judge this? Case in point, you look at the Bears defense over the last like 5 or 6 weeks. You're like, okay, this is significantly better than it was the first couple games where before Eberflus took over that defensive play calling. But you're also played against a bunch of scrub teams. And the one team that was not a scrub offense, they beat you so bad on passing, they didn't really need to run the ball. They just marched on the field passing. So it's hard to judge on things because we have such an unbalanced, uneven, and for the most part, easy schedule.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing, is going into this game, you pretty much knew that the game plan for the Bears should basically be don't lose. Don't make the mistakes that are going to lose you a game to a bad team. If you execute on the basics, you should come out on top, whether that's 16-3 or 24-7, whatever it would be. You just had to go out there and not make mistakes. And I think that when you look at what the Bears offense did, is you didn't see a lot of the cutesy trickery stuff. I did like that pitch to Scott, who had a pretty solid game. That was kind of as trickery as you were going to get, but everything else was pretty vanilla, and that's pretty much what you expected. And I mean, this was never a game for me where I was going to be looking at to be like, okay, we need to see this excel here. I'm just thinking, honestly, in my mind, don't make dumb mistakes and beat a team you're supposed to beat at home. Because this win actually does mean something.
Right. And I do have a question for you, though.
Yes.
What do you got up your sleeve?
Oh, what do you got up your sleeve?
Like,
what does that even mean, dude?
I don't understand, like, why he said that. Like, why did you say that?
You're playing the 1-8 Panthers at home.
Why would you say that? Because here's the thing, like, if you say that, like, you probably had something up your sleeve and you just broadcast that to the other team. Why? And if you don't have something up your sleeve and you say you have something up your sleeve, that's just weird.
I said it was a clown hanky. You're pulling it out just nonstop.
He's got one of those flowers that squirts water in your face.
Yeah, that just made my eyes roll, and I'm like, dude, come on, you're playing the 1-7 Panthers at home.
He's like,
Like,
you're like, what do you have up your sleeve? And he sticks his hand in there and starts making fart noises with his armpit.
and then everyone would be like, yeah, that seems about right.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were expecting.
Pretty much. Hey, you know what he had up his sleeve? I'll tell you what he had up his sleeve. He used mind games, mind control to tell Frank Reich to kick with former Bears legend Eddie Pinheiro a 59-yard field goal, whose career high was like, what, 55, 56? He's never kicked a 59-yard field goal before.
Yeah, that was dumb. I mean, this was a game. I'm not going to say Eberflus outcoached the other team, but he just didn't make the big boneheaded mistake. And
Right.
Frank Reich did.
Right. It's exactly like the results of the game. It's not that one team outshined the other. It was one team was less dumb and bad than the other.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. The things that these teams will do.
I mean, with
a
a time,
false start on a field goal, that never happens. That just doesn't happen.
Sean, the Bears had a false start on victory formation. Goes to show you're not using that formation very often.
Yeah, I mean, there's some solid things to take away from that game. Not a lot. Kyler Gordon looked phenomenal.
He did.
He has been really good this year, and
been better than Brisker in my opinion.
He's been. I mean, it's important. We learn how important it is to have a slot corner. And the last time we had a slot corner that could play well was 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've got one again. He's healthy. Kyler Gordon, when he's healthy, is a really good cornerback. And you have Jalen Johnson out there who teams are just not throwing at. They're not throwing at him. And they're not really throwing at Kyler Gordon. They're going after Tyreek Stevenson. And, he's had his ups and downs, but not nearly as many downs as Kyler Gordon did last year.
Right.
Stevenson is holding his own, I think they said he was the most targeted cornerback in the league. And we're not cursing his name. So
it's a rookie with growing pains.
Yeah. I mean, we've had some penalties and things, but none of us have cursed his name and been like, whoa, waste of a second round pick. Should have drafted John Michael Schmitz. It's that penalty sucked, or that was a weak call. He's going to be a pretty good cornerback, and I hope they can find a way to sign Jalen Johnson, because those three are a good cornerback group.
I agree. They are. And my favorite Kyler Gordon play is when they were running behind the line of scrimmage and he sniffed that out and he got there and it was a loss deep into their own defensive territory. That would set up the scoring drive for the Bears when they would punt it away. So that was a really, really nice play.
Yeah. So Kyler Gordon had a great game. Montez Sweat had a really good game. Like you said, no sacks, but what do you have, like 9 quarterback pressures?
And you could see, if you were watching him in real time, you saw him get into the face of Bryce Young.
Yeah.
Consistently.
He looked really good. But so those were bright spots. Our middle linebacker played really well. So
two good weeks in a row for Jack Sanborn.
If Sanborn was faster, he would be a really, really good middle linebacker. He's smart. He's, good tackler. He
He knows
sniffs
where the
out plays.
ball's
He
going.
knows where it's going to go. It's just he's he's a little lead-footed. But other than that, he's a pretty good damn linebacker, and he had a good game. On offense, um, both tackles had really good games.
Mm-hmm.
Tevin struggled a little bit, but he's going against a Pro Bowl guard, one on one. I think he did fine. He just, it was a struggle. It was the first time I've seen him struggle against somebody, which is good. I think you need that as the young players to, struggle but not get overwhelmed. I think that helps you. Um, Deontay Foreman, that's the guy. That's the guy that when we signed him, I'm like, that's the guy right there. And there was so many
Yeah,
people talking
guy.
about what's his role in this team. Is he going to make this final roster? This is why you sign this guy. He is a beast, and he's bowling over people.
That was a
Uh,
nice revenge game for him.
yeah, at first I was laughing because I was like, oh, it's the Eddie Pinero, um, revenge game.
There were a lot of revenge game narratives. I just didn't think that one of the narratives would be Smith Marset, the guy who fumbled away that Vikings game last year. I didn't even know he was on the Panthers.
Oh, I didn't either. I didn't even know it was in the NFL still. But yeah, Smith Marset revenge game, the Eddie Pinero revenge game, the Deontay Foreman revenge game, the uh,
DJ
DJ
Moore.
Moore revenge game. So many revenge games, but really, it was Deontay Foreman that had the revenge game. Yeah, he ran for 4 yards a carry, 80 yards, a touchdown, and he looked good.
Also, I want to point something out. Very, very important. Guess who made a catch in this game? Equanimous St. Brown.
He did
Woo!
for 4 yards.
That was like his first catch since like a long time. He's got like 2 catches on the year.
I'm not gonna lie. Lucas Patrick played decently. Um,
I still can't wait till we get like a legit number one
oh yeah,
center in there. Because there were still some snaps at some times that were a little.
yeah. I definitely that's got to be high on your priority list. Is bringing in a real center. And I know it's funny. Is everybody or 3/4 of the Bears fans were just still belly aching about could have drafted John Michael Schmitz. And John Michael Schmitz is like one based on pro football scores. He's one of the worst graded centers in the league right now.
His name was my name too.
Uh,
Sean, I'm going to ask you 3 questions that I want your opinion on.
sure.
Let's go through it.
Okay.
Number 1, I'm going to go back to the Eddie Pinheiro 59-yard field goal attempt. Did you totally think like me that when that ball was leaving his foot that was going to be drilled, that was going to make it?
Yes, because I always assume when it's a 59-yard field goal against the Bears that it's going in.
Touche. Exactly. And then it just kind of ran out of steam. And how did you like Eddie Pinheiro just looking over to Frank Reich like, that's what I got. What do you want from me?
I mean, I don't know if you heard his quote about it afterwards. He's like, well, they asked me to do that. Did my best. What are you gonna do?
I
Like,
mean,
he
he's
knew
right.
he knew he couldn't make it. Everybody knew he couldn't make it. And it's 59-yard field goal is not an easy field goal. And
For anybody, no.
he knew he couldn't make it. And Soldier Field's a hard place to kick in. So it just they asked him to do something that he wasn't able to do. He did his best, and um
So just to kind of piggyback off that really quick, do you remember what set up that field goal attempt?
I don't, to be honest. I fell asleep. I was on the couch and I fell asleep, and I woke up and I was like, should I rewind it and watch? Nah.
Nah,
I'm good.
nah. So it was 3rd and 10, obviously, and it was a pass that was incomplete but should have been intercepted. It was in and out of the hands.
Oh, is that
It,
Sanborn or is that
it was Sanborn,
Stevens? Okay,
yes.
because
It was Sanborn.
there was two dropped interceptions in that game.
Well, and it just a sub question here. Does this Chicago Bears defense lead the league in dropped interceptions? It feels like once a week there's a pass that should be absolutely picked off that wasn't. I mean,
I,
that
I'm
that was a
convinced.
gimme pick.
I'm convinced that they lead the league in not only dropped interceptions but also missed tackles.
Wouldn't surprise me either way. Um, But to the second question I was going to ask you, and this has been a topic of conversation among, I think, a decent number of people. And I understand that the feelings of this play, this call, is a results based opinion. But I don't know if you fell back asleep or not, but did you see how the Bears iced the game?
Yes.
It was a 3rd and 7 pass to Darnell Mooney.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have done that in that position? Do you like the call to pass the ball to try to seal the game, or would you have run the ball? Now, understanding that the pass was complete and it sealed the game, but if that pass would have been incomplete, the clock would have stopped and it would have been 1:18 left and you would have to punt it away. What's your opinion on that call?
Um, I don't have a hard, fast rule on it because in this case, the Panthers could not. There was no way that they were going to march down the field and score. Everything they did was slow and plodding. I mean, even when they set up that 59-yard field goal, would they take a 5-minute drive to barely get over the 50-yard line?
Yeah.
They don't have explosive plays. They couldn't run the ball. So I was okay with it in that situation. And I heard Tyson Bagent talking about it. And he said he was told that they called that play because it was there earlier in the game and they felt it would be there again. And they said that, if it wasn't there, just take the sack so the ball or the clock keeps running. And hearing it like that, I go, okay, that makes sense. If the throw is if the play is there, take it. If it's not, take the sack or run with it or whatever. Just don't throw it away. That makes sense. I still probably would have tried to run the ball. Deontay Foreman was carrying dudes. I probably would have run it and taken more time off the clock. And if you don't get it, that's fine. I'm still not worried about the Panthers marching down the field. But I see what you're saying. And if this was against like a team that wasn't terrible, yeah, I would have had problems with it. I don't like that. I mean, even with the rationale behind it, that rationale makes sense against a bad team. Against a good team, that does not make sense because even if you think that throw is going to be there, it's the NFL and you got to make that throw.
Yeah, no, I think I pretty much agree with everything you said. I felt the same way. I thought that in context, you thought, okay, you're either going to complete the pass or the game's over, or you're going to punt and pin them deep and make a team that hasn't scored an offensive touchdown all night march all the way down the field. And you're probably thinking that in this case, you feel pretty good about the Bears stopping that. So I'm with you on that. That is a situation where I would risk it. Whereas if they were playing the Chiefs, obviously not. They were playing the Eagles or the Lions or the Browns or the Bengals, you wouldn't do that. But against the Panthers, yeah, I'm with you there. Because I do feel like we look at that game and you say, hey, The one touchdown Carolina scored was on special teams.
Mm-hmm.
That accounted for 7 of their 13 points. Everything else was just off the leg of Eddie Pinheiro. So marching all the way down the field in a minute 18 was probably unlikely. So I am with you on that. But luckily, we didn't have to come to that. You completed the pass to Mooney and you iced the game. So here's my third question for you. Is Bryce Young just inexperienced and learning, or is he just not very good in the NFL?
I'm not going to write him off at this point. He's on a bad team that can't really run the ball, doesn't have any receivers. It's tough. He's going to have to improve a lot. There's a lot of things he's going to need to do, but I'm not going to write him off yet. He just really looks unsure of himself and shaky out there. And you look at CJ Stroud and he looks so confident out there, like he can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And but to be honest, there was a better team around him in Texas. So I think Bryce Young has a long way to go. He's not the guy I would have chosen with the number. I don't know if I would have gone with any of the quarterbacks. CJ Stroud has exceeded my expectations.
Mine too.
But I didn't really. I mean, this jury's still out on Will Levis. I know he had a good first game, but second game was meh. At best a meh. I don't really love any of the quarterbacks from this past year, so I wouldn't have traded up to get him. But look how long it took Tua to find his way. I feel like they're similar in that regard. I think he'll be okay. It's just going to take him some time, and you're going to have to get him a stud wide receiver in a running game.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you that I don't want to fully rule him out yet. It's just there's a lot of work to do there because he was just kind of running around helplessly on a lot of those plays. Obviously, the Bears were getting good pressure on him. He doesn't have a very good offensive line in front of him, but I mean, you see the shakiness there, and you didn't pick him off at all. You should have, but you didn't. But you saw some moments where you were like, eek, that's eek. But I don't know if Frank Reich is going to survive this, depending on how this season ends.
I feel bad for him. I mean, some of the things are his fault, but other things, I think that owner meddles into things. And
look at the trade with the Bears.
Yeah, and the fact that it sounds like if you would have listened to Josh McCown speak and Frank Reich, it sounded like they wanted CJ Stroud and that the owner wanted Bryce Young. And so they went with Bryce Young, and that's backfiring. I think he deserves a second year because, if I'm him, if I'm ownership, I'm going, you know what? This guy, we yanked so many rugs out from under him that, we should give him a second chance, but I don't think they will. I think they're going to fire him. And I think that's a little bit dirty when you take away every weapon that guy had to make the team better or every avenue, and you overruled him, and then you're holding him to be good based on decisions he wasn't allowed to make. That's a tough one. If your team's not quitting on you, I think you deserve a second season, especially when you've had success in this league.
Yeah, I just don't know how the owner thinks. This the Carolina Panthers are a mess, man. I mean,
Yeah.
you have a situation where you have a million holes. Your future with your coaching is unknown. You don't have the weapons right now to help your quarterback, and you don't have your first overall pick. If you get a first overall pick, even if you
Yeah.
get a top 3 pick, you don't have.
Yeah, I agree with you that I mean, I think the ownership is going to fire him. If you're asking me, what do I think is going to happen? But if you're asking me, what would you do, Sean? No, I wouldn't fire him, but I think he's going to get fired.
Yeah, that's fair. Yep.
I just think it's going to be the wrong move. It's, yeah, I think you just need to give him the ability to add weapons because, I think Bryce Young will be fine. I don't see him being a superstar. I think he'll be fine. I don't think Tua's a superstar, but you put a good offensive line and a good run game and a great offensive coach and 2 stud receivers, and you're like, all I need you to do. He is like a high powered game manager. It's like, just get the ball in the hands of the playmakers. Be quick. Get the ball out. Don't take sacks. And that's what he's doing. And I think Bryce Young could be that, but you've got to give him that situation. And I think, it was tough because that Panthers team, they can't run the ball.
No.
And the Bears have gotten better at stopping the run, but their running backs, if you take out those couple of runs that Bryce Young had where he picked up those first downs, is the running backs for the Panthers ran for 25 yards, less than 2 yards a carry.
Yeah, nothing. I mean, when you think of the running game that the Panthers had in that game, you just thought of Bryce Young taking off.
Yeah, that was basically their whole run offense. I mean, it was abysmal. And that's one of those things is, I hinted at before, is it's tough to gauge where are the Bears getting better on defense, because they're improving. We just don't have a measuring stick because they've played some really bad offenses.
And teams really haven't run the ball against the Bears. I mean, we saw teams run a lot heavier last year against the Bears, and we saw how bad the Bears running defense was. I do think that it's better this year, regardless of how many times they're getting run against. I mean, the stats will tell you the fact that you've greatly improved your linebacking core now that you have not a great defensive line, but it's better than it was last year. I definitely think it's a better run defense, but I mean, look at so many of these games the Bears have played. They didn't really run against the Bears. The Panthers did. Remember the Vikings game? They barely ran against the Bears. And a number of other games. I mean, in the first week against the Packers, Aaron Jones ran hard against the Bears, but it was week 1 when they were ill prepared, and Aaron Jones is a really good running back. But you look at a lot of these other games, teams don't necessarily run that hard against them.
No. And, so it's hard to gauge, where there's no measuring stick, because you're like, oh, okay, they're better, but they've played some terrible offenses, and the one team that was a good offense, they just passed. Just pass. Like the Chargers didn't run that exceptionally well versus the Bears. So
they didn't need to.
Yeah, they were passing and could do whatever they wanted, and because there was zero pressure. So it's tough. And
I don't think it's a personnel problem. I think it's a scheme problem. I mean, you look at the way they play soft coverage, they give that cushion that allows teams to just dump passes off 4 or 5 yards, and they have all that room to run. How many times over the past few weeks did we see an opposing quarterback just dump the ball off in the middle of the field on like 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 9? And they have that cushion where everyone's playing on the other side of the sticks. So all you have to do is dump that little 3, 4, 5 yard pass, and they have all that room to run to get a first down. If you play tighter coverage I do think you have guys that are capable of playing tighter coverage. Obviously, a few weeks ago, when you had a lot of your guys out, Jackson out, Brisker out, when you were really banged up, okay, it's harder to play man to man when you have a lot of backups in there. But when you got these starting guys out there, we saw the secondary play decently towards the end of last year in a couple of games. You remember that game against the Eagles?
Yeah.
If you played, I do think if you played a little tighter coverage, you would be a respectable defense. Obviously, you're not going to get a lot of sacks. We know that. But if you are better at stopping the run and you cover your opponent better and you're not giving them these soft coverages with all this cushion in front of you to work with, then I think you're a solid, not great, but a solid defensive unit. It's just, it drives me crazy when they have those massive cushions in front of them that they just give away. Because then you say, okay, you don't have to take deep shots. You just stay in the middle of the field, keep it easy, and you'll pick up a bunch of yards.
And here's the thing is, there's a time and a place for man versus zone coverage. It's the Bears are just predictable in it. And the thing is the goal of the zone coverage is you're supposed to bait people in it. Look how the Saints did it against Tyson Bagent. They baited him into multiple interceptions. And that's really what you should be doing but when you telegraph things and the other team knows, all right, well, they're in a zone, then you know exactly where to go with that, where the soft spots in the zone are. And you go, okay, I'm going to go there. And all day long, you're going to feast on them. You've got to switch things up if you don't have a good pass rush. If you have a good pass rush, that fixes a lot of it, but
you don't.
You don't. And that's the problem. So, I think there's a lot of scheme issue as we've got, you look and you've got, all right, your strong safety is a good player. You've got at least 3, if not 4 good cornerbacks. You've got a good edge rusher. You've got another edge rusher who's a 8+ sack a season guy that's just not getting home. And Andrew Billings, your nose tackle, is a good run stuffer, and you've got a pretty good linebacking core. You're like, well, why, if with all of this, are they not playing better? And then you go back to, okay, then your defensive coach is not getting the job done.
But he's got something up his sleeve.
Yeah, hopefully it's a pink slip. It's this game, the first half of this game was so atrociously bad for the Bears. Like I wish they could have fired the coaching staff at halftime. I really think though that they're going to be allowed to come back. I really do. The Ryan Poles is going to try to sell us on, well, you look at how that run defense improved, and if Justin Fields hadn't been hurt, we could have gotten more wins, and they're going to try to sell us on some garbage, and it's a frustrating situation.
You're putting those thoughts in my head, and I don't like it.
What else about this game?
Hey, I got a fun fact.
Sure.
Do you know the last time the Bears won a home night game at Soldier Field before that win on Thursday?
Was it the Tom Brady one where he didn't know what down it was?
Yes.
Or Tom Brady played with a concussion?
Yes. 2020, when there were no fans in the stands. The last time they won a home night game with fans in the stands was in December of 2019 against the Cowboys.
Jeez. If the Bears beat the Lions, the Lions are the next game, it'll be the first 2-game win streak in the Eberflus era.
It would also be the first division win in the Eberflus era, but we know that's not happening, right?
It's funny when the way Eberflus and polls will talk about how the team is looking. Like I get there's a benefit to not shitting all over your staff and your players in the season, but don't blow smoke either. And well, if you just look at our last four, we're 2-2.
Mm.
That's still not very good.
The two wins you have are against a team that's 1-8 and a team that was starting the rotting corpse of Brian Hoyer and who fired their coach afterwards. Just saying.
That new coach has really got that team fired up.
Yeah, Josh McDaniels was not a fruitful investment.
That was a terrible hire. I hope this interim coach gets the job because he really seems like he's got those players playing hard, and you know, I would like a coach that has a fire like that.
But he's got something up his sleeve.
But which drives me crazy is when they keep selling us on these weirdos that our last two. If you take away all interceptions and fumbles that we lost and all the penalties, we're almost a 500 team. I think.
It's the Dave Wannstedt school.
Yeah, it's so annoying. Realistically, how do you bring back a coach that has never won a division game? How do you bring back a coach that has never won consecutive games in his tenure? How do you bring back a coach that has 6 wins over 2 seasons? How do you do that? How do you do that?
When you're owned by Ding Dong George and the Purple Crayon.
It's infuriating. And we're going to be in Justin Fields' 4th season, and we still don't know who he is. The good thing is, the one positive thing about this injury is that we could take away is that we know they can cut down on the sacks with this same offensive line. But again, we look at the teams that they played. So it's going to be tough to compare. Oh, well, Tyson Bagent, he was able to not get sacked against the Carolina Panthers without Brian Burns. And then Justin Fields comes back against the Detroit Lions. And, it's not an apples to apples comparison about, the sack rates, because that defense from the Lions is real good. And
I'm dreading this.
It's a tough comparison, but you can at least go, okay, we know he shouldn't be getting sacked 6 times a game. Can we cut that? Can we cut that down to 2 or 3? And you start being able to set landmarks for where is he in his process. And honestly, is our dipshit offensive coordinator going to call a game to optimize the player that we have?
You mean actually rolling him out of the pocket?
Roll him out. I mean, here's my thing is, last year they were just running him, run. I'm not for that. But also, his legs are a weapon. Tell him, go, here's how you take away the sacks is read, take off running. Read, throw it away. If you got a lane, take off running. If you don't, throw it away. Cuts down on your sacks. And make your reads quick and then go. Don't go back. Quick progression. Not there. Okay, then run if there's a lane. And if not, throw it away or a check down. Like that's not overcoaching him. That's keeping it simple. And roll him out. Let him get some easy passes under his belt. Find the plays that he likes to do. Be like, okay, let's run those. Find the plays where he's just not good at them and take those out of the repertoire. It's not rocket science, and dipshit uh Getsy just can't figure it out.
Yeah. This is probably the game I've been dreading the most. These games against the Lions.
Yeah.
This could get real ugly. I
It
mean,
could.
it's the NFL. Weird things happen in the NFL. But, I mean, it doesn't. The thing is, it doesn't really mean anything at this point. Not for us.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's probably in the long run better for us to lose this game.
Sure.
Um,
Because there
because
is that fear if you win like 5, 6 games, and to your point, Ding Dong George will say, well, Matt Eberflus has really shown passion and grit. We better keep him around. And then he'll write the memo on his stupid notebook with his purple crayon, and he'll give it to Kevin Warren, and Kevin Warren will inform Ryan Poles, and they can't do anything about it because Ding Dong George wrote the memo. It's been notarized in purple fucking crayon, and you know how it goes.
yeah, but I mean, honestly, a loss anyway is because if the season were to end right now, and I know the full week of the NFL season hasn't happened, so things are going to get shuffled. Um, is if the season ended right now before the Sunday games, the Bears would have the number 1 and number 5 picks.
So if you were to move on from Justin Fields, you could hope to draft a quarterback and then maybe Marvin Harrison.
Yeah.
I feel like if they want Marvin Harrison, they have to have one of their picks at least in the top 5, right? Like if you have both your picks in the top 5, you can replace if you do go away from Justin Fields, you can replace your quarterback and you can bring in Marvin Harrison. Now, my question is the Bears evaluating Justin Fields. Are they going to evaluate him to be the guy? Or are they going to evaluate him to be trade bait? Because I think to many people's points, I'm not as sure right now if Ryan Poles sees Justin Fields as his guy regardless. I don't know. I really don't know. But we have to see this play out. If Justin Fields plays, he's not very good, then I think you have your answer. If he does play and he plays well, is the question going to be, okay, are you going to have him as your guy going forward? Or are you going to try to find value and trade for him and Ryan Poles drafts his own quarterback? That we have no idea. We can give our opinions on what we think they should do, but our opinions don't mean anything on what they're actually going to do.
I would be shocked if the Bears as an organization have made their final decision on Justin Fields yet. I would be shocked because there's still quite a bit of season left for him to prove that, all right, things clicked, things are working, and we can move on with him and continue. Because that would be best case scenario is you have these 2 high draft picks and you've got your quarterback. Obviously, best case scenario is the Bears finish with pick 1 and pick 2, and they feel confident with Justin Fields, and they're going to continue on with him because then you can start flipping picks. Is like you got 3 ones essentially. You got one in a stud player for the one next year or last year. If you've got 1 and 2, you could probably flip that for 5 firsts and a couple of seconds or a couple of thirds. You really just set yourself up with absolutely crazy draft capital.
Yeah.
and still get good players. That's the thing about that trade is with Carolina. If you would have botched your first round, the first pick, you're like, all right, it's a lot harder to sell. Like, we judge that trade based on a couple of things. One, what did we take away? Two, what did the Panthers get? And the fact that Bryce Young has not been good so far, like, it doesn't matter if Bryce Young ends up having a decent or good career. The fact that it was bad to start with makes the trade look better for the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we got the Panthers first round pick this year, and there's a good chance it's going to be the number 1 pick, that looks good for the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the guy we got with their first of the first rounders, Darnell Wright, looks to be a bookend tackle for this team for a long time, looks good for the Bears. If Bryce Young looked really good and the Panthers were, a competitive team, 500-ish team, and Darnell Wright would have stunk, we would be looking at this draft that trade a whole lot different.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where you can change one or two little aspects of what happened, and our whole outlook is completely different.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is right now it's it's the same with the trade with the Eagles with Jalen Carter, and we took Darnell Wright instead of Jalen Carter, and it's people aren't talking about that because both players are playing really well. And when you go, well, why didn't you take Jalen Carter? You know what? He's really talented. We just didn't know if we had the infrastructure to control him, and we also really needed a tackle. And Darnell Wright is really good. And you look at it and you're like, okay, you know what? Both players are playing really well. I mean, there's definitely weeks where Darnell Wright has a better PFF score than Jalen Carter. And if you look at the grades, the midseason grades for rookies, both of them are high grades. So people aren't talking about that trade. They were,
Yeah.
but now they're really not, because, like, okay, we got a good player too. Especially since the Bears are stopping the run. I'm sure they would have, if they knew that this was the Jalen Carter they were going to get, I'm sure that would have been a much harder trade to make. But the fact that you got another position of need and the player's playing really well, and you picked up an extra draft pick for it, it's hard to argue against it. Like, that's what I kept saying when the trade happened, is like, people are like, oh, well, what if Jalen Carter is Pro Bowl Hall of Fame caliber? Like, if Darnell Wright plays for the Bears for 10 years at a high level tackle, you don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of circumstances with that. I mean, it was where the Eagles were versus where the Bears were, and where some of the off-field stuff was with Jalen Carter. There were a number of factors involved in that decision.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And partly Jalen Carter is playing really well. Like, I'm not going to take anything away from him, but also he is in a position where he's playing next to him, in front of good friends, and on a team with a lot of veteran leadership, and on a winning team, makes it a lot better. But the Bears are in a tougher situation. Darnell Wright's got to play one-on-one by himself, because they're not protecting him with a lot of chips, and he's usually taking on one of the best edge rushers on the other team, and he's playing well. That's all that matters. Is with a first rounder, you don't have to hit a home run. It doesn't have to be a Hall of Fame guy every time, because it's just not realistic. Go through, pick a random year. let's play this little exercise. Pick a random year over the last 10 or 15 years.
2015.
All right. I'm going to read you the 2015 first round picks. And
Okay.
Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, Dante Fowler, Amari Cooper, Brandon Scherf, Leonard Williams, Kevin White, Vic Beasley, Eric Flowers, Todd Gurley, Trey Waynes, Danny Sheldon, Andrus Peat, Devontae Parker, Melvin Gordon, Kevin Johnson, Eric Armstead, Marcus Peters, Cam Irving, Nelson Aguilar, Cedric Ogbui, Bud Dupree, Shane Ray, DJ Humphries, Shaq Thompson, Brashard Perriman, Byron Jones, Laken Tomlinson, Philip Dorsett, Demarius Randall, Stephone Anthony, and Malcolm Brown. I mean, how many guys in that list are you like, oh yeah, that's a Hall of Fame type of guy?
Hmm.
None.
Can't really say much. You had a few solid players in there, but nothing
No.
like, oh my God.
I mean, Brandon Scherf has been solid. Leonard Williams has been solid. Vic Beasley, I think, is out of the league. Todd Gurley was solid until he got hurt. But
Yep.
he didn't play very long. Danny Shelton stunk.
Kevin White. Oh man.
Eric Armstead's been pretty. Marcus Peters, pretty good. Nelson Aguilar stinks. Shane Ray, I think, is out of the NFL. I mean, there's so you look and to expect. Oh yeah, we're gonna get a Hall of Famer in the first round. No, that's an realistic expectation. Your expectation is you get a guy that's a longtime starter. And
You're getting positive value from Darnell Wright, and that's what you can look for.
yeah, Dante Fowler was a okay signing. Brandon Scherf, very good first round pick. Leonard Williams, very good first round pick. Andrus Peat, good first round pick. Melvin Gordon, for good first round pick. Eric Armstead, Marcus Peters. Like, all right, there you go. Those are good first round picks. That's all you need. So if you don't get a Hall of Famer, that's fine. You're not expecting one. You're just expecting a good football player. And I think the Bears got that with Darnell Wright. So no matter what the trades are, you got a good player.
Yeah, you did. And he's obviously there are some growing pains here or there with some penalties, but otherwise he's playing really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those growing pains, you expect that. That's part of being a rookie in the National Football League.
But yeah, that's my point is you build if every first round pick ends up being a starter right away and a guy that you feel really confident about, that's a victory. It's a victory. You know, you just can't be having all your first round picks be busts.
Right.
So that's like when the Bears missed out on getting the Aaron Donald, and the next he went the pick before the Bears, and then the Bears drafted Kyle Fuller. Yeah, it sucks. You would have really wanted to have Aaron Donald, but you know, Kyle Fuller, I would call him a successful first round pick.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
He was pretty darn good for you, and you know, it's just there's not very many Aaron Donalds that come in a draft. Let's see. What do we expect this coming next week against the Lions? I mean, you know, honestly, if you can stop the run and prevent the deep passes, the explosive plays, I don't think this will be as bad as we think, because you know that's the measure of a good offense is can they just take whatever you're offering as a defense and march on the field? And a lot of offenses, like they just they you make them chip away, chip away, chip away, and then one play they get a penalty, holding. Oh, then now it's 10 yards back, and they have to punt. That's really what happens is you give them more opportunities to make a mistake. If you give up those explosive plays,
You're done for.
you're done for. And that's really, if you can just limit the run and take away the explosive plays.
I just don't like what that defense is potentially going to do, especially if Justin Fields is going to be rusty.
Yeah, I mean, who knows if he's playing? We don't know yet.
That's true. That's true. He's questionable, but he's not going to play. He's doubtful, but he's not going to play.
Yeah, I mean,
You heard that whole debacle, right?
Oh my God. This coaching staff, there's so many reasons to fire them, and their ability to answer questions straightforward and honestly is one of them. It's just a fireable offense.
Well, he's doubtful. He needs one more day, but he's not going to play. What the fuck?
Like, honestly, they should have just made him be available if in an emergency. Right. And also, I don't know if you noticed, so the way the rules work now with the NFL is when you put a guy on IR, like back when I was a kid, when you went on IR, you were done for the season. Now you can go on IR for, minimum of 4 weeks, and you get that roster spot back until the player comes back. But you only get a certain number of players you're allowed to put on IR and designate them for return. The Bears are done. They can't put anybody else on IR and bring them back this entire season because they've already designated all those spots. And granted, at a certain point, like what are we just finished week 9 for the Bears. At a certain point, you go $16. Does it matter if you bringing them back for weeks 17 and 18?
No, not in this, not this season.
Still, the fact that they used up all of those, and they've used up all of those spots, that if they couldn't have put Justin Fields on IR because they wouldn't have had a spot to bring him back. Season would have been done.
That's fair. And I questioned why they didn't put him on IR, but okay, that makes sense. That's fair.
So now it's, if somebody gets a fairly serious injury, but it's not season ending, it's pretty much they're going to have to hold that roster spot and stay on there injured, or they're going to have to put them on IR for the whole season because that's it, done. And, I would say we get through week 12 or 13 and you're fine, whatever. But that means you've got week 10, 11, 12, like 3 to 4 games that you have to play. Well, I guess one of those is a bye. So you got 3 games you got to play and not get a serious injury on a player that you need to return. That sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Is there anything else from that Bears game that we need to touch on?
I don't think so. Squeaking out a 16-13 win against the Panthers. But hey, we went in needing to win that game, and we came away with a win.
Yeah,
it wasn't pretty, it wasn't great, but it's a win.
Important thing is when you look at from what's best for the Bears in the long run, you're like, okay, they got 2 first-round picks, and what's best for the Bears is, who's more likely to lose out. And, or to get the first number one overall pick. It's the Panthers. So yeah, you're like, okay, we got to beat them then. We got to keep them down. And the Panthers showed why they're the worst team in the NFL.
Though
And
I'm still scared that the Giants are going to overtake that pick.
I mean, that's really possible. You look at it, the Cardinals are 1 win too, but their quarterback is coming back.
Kyler Murray,
they've played this whole season with Clayton Tune and Joshua Dobbs as their quarterbacks. So Kyler Murray coming in, even if he's this crappy Kyler Murray, he's still much better than those other two. You feel like they're gonna get some more wins under their belt, even if it's not a lot. The Patriots, I feel like Belichick's gonna somehow figure out a win somewhere along the way. It's just the Giants, and I don't know where Tyrod Taylor is, because once he comes back, I think they can win some games. If he's done for the season, then the Giants are definitely going to get that number one pick. But if Tyrod comes back, I think he can win some games. He's been far and away the best quarterback on that team, and that includes the $40-some million Danny Dimes.
Ugh. We're not paying that.
Yeah, Carolina's just not a good team. The scary part is now the Bears have 3 victories. If they get that fourth, they're suddenly falling into pick 10.
Yeah. It sucks that we have to do this a second year in a row.
Yeah,
thinking about tanking. Really fucking sucks.
It does. It does until you're like, okay, well, we got the number 1 and the number 2 pick. And then you're like, okay, that you rationalize that in your head. Be like, yeah, that we sat through all those games, had all that anxiety and angst and upsetness and ruined weekends. But now come April, the Bears have the number 1 and the number 2 pick. It makes it all better.
The ding dongs making the choices.
Still think, man, what if you could flip your number 1 for the similar package that you got from Carolina, and you flip your 2 for a similar package that you got from Carolina?
Oh, it would be epic. I mean, the choices would be endless. You either use those picks to pick the top players, the top studs, or you go out and you make deals and you absolutely stock up. Don't get me wrong. It's a dream to have that kind of scenario available for you. It's just, it sucks because you're like, who's going to be in charge? Who's going to be making the decisions? Is Ryan, I don't think Ryan Poles is going anywhere regardless of this season, but are you going to have Eberflus and that same coaching staff in place? I don't know. I just want to see how Kevin Warren approaches this and what he's allowed to do, because I am just scared that despite his fancy title, when it comes to making decisions like this, it still is under the wrap of Ding Dong George. Who's in charge?
I don't know. Who knows?
If I'm the dingbat with the purple crayon, I say you make the decisions, because not only are you here to make big time decisions financially, you're here to make decisions for the betterment of this club, of this organization. And you as a financial wasn't he the CFO for the Vikings? Wasn't that his title? CFO, Chief Financial Advisor?
I don't know what his title was.
I thought it was CFO, but he's dealt with, he's not a dummy when it comes to economics, obviously, right? No. So let him make these decisions. Let him say, you know what? We're going to fire Matt Eberflus and we're going to pay top dollar to get a good, proven head coach. Hey, you know what? Matt Eberflus has 6 wins in a year and a half. And there's no indication right now that he's going anywhere before the end of the season. Meanwhile, the Cubs said, hey, we're in a transition year. David Ross, your team just had a winning season. Guess what? Not good enough. We're going to make a change. And we're going to make him the highest paid manager in baseball history. The Cubs are willing to do that kind of thing. But Dingbat Ding Dong George and his stupid purple crayon in his stupid notebook is sitting here, bro, that's not the Bear McCaskey way. We're seeing improvement. Give me a fucking break. Do you see the difference between the Cubs and the Bears right now?
Yeah. I mean,
isn't it extraordinary?
If you just put all of the Chicago sports teams in your hand and then open them up and just watch them shoot wildly in different directions, you've got the Blackhawks pointing up, you've got the Cubs pointing way up, you've got the White Sox just getting launched up your butthole, and the Bulls spinning around in circles, and God knows what the Bears are doing. It's the Cubs. The Cubs were being honest when they said that, the season wasn't good enough. And I thought that meant, we're going to sign a couple of mid-free agents and let Bellinger go and run David Ross back out there. And the fact that they let David Ross go and they signed a top 3 manager in the game for a big contract, it just says we're competing. And now you're hearing like, oh, hey, this team has a legitimate chance to sign Shohei Ohtani. You go, ooh, all right, maybe they do mean business.
Assuming this is our transition into baseball, because I feel like I've covered everything with the Bears, but you know what? I said it at the time, and I'm going to say it again now. That end of the year press conference from Jed Hoyer, he sounded unhappy. He was not satisfied with those results. It would be easy to say a year ago, you would assume in this scenario that he'd be talking about what an accomplishment it was to have a winning season. He was not celebrating.
No,
he was pissed.
I rightfully so. Is this team?
Yeah.
This team had, number one, they had the playoffs locked up.
Yes.
Number 2 is the team that they lost the playoff berth to went on to the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
That says something.
Did you hear what Ron Coomer said a few days ago on the radio?
I didn't.
He said that final series in Milwaukee, that ended the season, that officially ended the regular season and eliminated the Cubs from the playoffs. He said he never saw Tom Ricketts that upset. So when you hear that, and then you hear what Jed Hoyer had to say at the end of the year, how what they did was not good enough. This isn't, when you hear those kinds of things, because Tom Ricketts, when you hear how he was pissed, that was behind the scenes. That wasn't in front of the cameras. And then when you saw what was in front of the cameras with Jed Hoyer, and you actually listened and heard his tone, that is legitimate dissatisfaction. That is legitimate 2 of the top dogs in the organization saying, you know what? We had a chance at something, and this is not acceptable play for our standards. You're actually seeing this team have the highest of standards. Listen, David Ross did not get fired because of his job. He got fired because you raised your standards and you saw that there was a better option available. And as time went on, Jed Hoyer saw that there was an opening to take advantage of that, and he did. Isn't that something? Like, that's extraordinary. How many teams would do that?
I don't know. I don't know if anybody else, but this was the right thing to do. And I know there's a lot of people out there, surprisingly, that are like, "Oh, the Cubs did David Ross dirty. They should have brought David Ross back." Why? Why? Why do you think that?
I have two avenues to go down. Number one, we understand there's a human element here. You know, we get it. It's got to be tough for David Ross. I understand. But for once, a team in this city is raising its standards above mediocrity. The business is unforgiving. This is a cutthroat business. And you know what? Ross is going to be getting his check either way. The Cubs said, we will pay David Ross so we can pay Craig Counsell the most money a manager has ever made in MLB history to make our team better. That, to me, says you've got guts, that you got a vision, and that you have top standards. That is what you should be focusing on. David Ross is going to, it sucks for David Ross, I get it, but he's going to be okay. He's going to make the money still, and he's going to get another job somewhere. It's not easy. You understand the human element, but he is going to be okay. Now you get one of the best managers in baseball in your building, in your dugout. And you know what's great about this too? Is Craig Counsell is going to be making the decisions because he's going to be on the same page as the front office, but he is going to be the ultimate decision maker here. They did not hire Craig Counsell to be a yes man. They hired Craig Counsell for his ability to manage a dugout.
Yeah. I mean, look at the payroll that the Brewers have put out there and what he's been able to do with that. If you give a guy that can do that with no budget, a big budget, you know, it lends you to believe that you're going to have much better results even.
And you know what, Sean? Here's my biggest thing with the Craig Counsell hiring is that I see the way I saw the hiring when it happened. I wasn't sitting there and thinking about how many more wins Craig Counsell was going to add or what his strategy was going to be behind the dugout. My ultimate takeaway was this is an organization that is showing it is serious.
Mm-hmm.
That's the takeaway here, is that they are willing to do this sort of thing to be the best possible versions of themselves. It's incredible that has to be so celebrated in the third largest market. But look what you have in this city. A dumb, stupid organization in the Bears. A arrogant piece of garbage Jerry Reinsdorf ruining two franchises that are stuck in hell right now. We are looking to an organization that's saying we're going to take this as seriously as possible right here, right now. And yes, the Blackhawks are on a very promising path, but they still got a ways to go. The Cubs are an organization that's saying we're here, we're taking this serious, we're ready right now. Not 2 years from now, not 3 years from now, right goddamn now. Take some notes, George McCaskey, with your stupid purple crayon. And you too, Jerry Reinsdorf, you cheap bastard. You arrogant piece of garbage.
You know,
this is what gets you fired up as a fan.
It really does ignite the, if you just spent this money on a manager, that means you're opening up the pocketbooks and you're gonna bring in the team that you need to bring in. So now, thinking about this, is after this news, does it seem feasible in the realm of possibility after this news that you could sign Shohei Ohtani to be DH? You trade for Juan Soto and you sign Bellinger to play first?
I don't know if all three is feasible, but I think getting any of those is feasible now.
I don't think they would re-sign Juan Soto. I think he would be a rental.
Sure.
Is you give them Ian
Like if
Happ,
you had a
Ian
year
Happ and a prospect and make the Padres eat some of that money. I think that's feasible. And because
would they even be willing to give Ian Happ? I mean, here's the thing about the Padres is you heard about that story where they needed to take out a loan to pay their payroll off. The Padres might be desperate just to get rid of money if they can even take on any more salary like that.
Yeah, and the Athletic is throwing this contract out for Bellinger as a projected contract. 6 for 162.
I think that's a bargain.
I think that is too.
That's an absolute bargain.
It's probably a year longer than I would have liked, but that money is not bad.
When Scott Boras is your agent?
That's literally what the Athletic is from yesterday. They posted that yesterday.
I still have that gut feeling, and I hope I'm wrong, that Bellinger ends up in New York. I mean, doesn't that just seem like the perfect fit there?
No. A perfect fit is right there in Cubby Blue.
Well, I agree, wholeheartedly agree, but you see the sense of having Bellinger in New York, like why that would make sense for
Oh,
them.
absolutely. Yeah, I do. I just don't like it.
Oh, I don't either. I hate it. It makes me want to blow Bills fan puke chunks.
But yeah, I mean, Shohei Ohtani would be huge. Just absolutely huge.
And you know what? I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much about it, but there is smoke. There is smoke to the Shohei Ohtani stuff that you wouldn't expect there to be a year ago.
There is smoke. There's multiple people saying the Cubs are the dark horse team. You already had Seiya Suzuki telling us how he was courting Shohei Ohtani through the whole World Baseball Classic. Then there's the report from recently where Shohei Ohtani was reaching out to Yu Darvish, asking him what it was like to play for the Cubs, and Yu Darvish selling him on the city.
If Yu Darvish sells Shohei Ohtani to comes here, Yu Darvish is going to go down as one of the best signings in Cubs history.
I love Yu Darvish, and it sucked that the Cubs got rid of him, but
it does.
If he's able to sell Shohei Ohtani on Chicago, bruh, that would be awesome.
Bruh. So much bruh. I mean, here's the thing. Shohei Ohtani or not, this team is ready to make these moves. These types, they're not. I'm confident right now. I'm putting my faith that we are moving past the days of plugging in a 4-year washed up Eric Hosmer and, past his prime, Tucker Barnhart and washed up Trey Mancini and, the stuff like that and the Eric Sogards and the Jonathan Villars. And, I'm confident that we're moving past. Obviously, you're going to make moves like that, but you're going to pair them with legitimate big moves. And, look at last year. If last year your big step was bringing in Dansby Swanson and further developing Justin Steele, and then, you brought in Seiya Suzuki as well, and the year before, but last year was really the year where Seiya Suzuki in that second half took that step forward. So he's kind of arrived, so to speak, even though he had a pretty good first year. But you saw that step come forward with Seiya Suzuki after 2022. The second half of 2023, he was very good. If you're seeing these stepping stones and now you're getting the point where you're ready to make the big boy moves, then you see all those moves that Jed Hoyer made the past 2 years. And you say, okay, this was building to something. You brought in Dansby Swanson to be an anchor, but not necessarily the number one asset on your team. An important core asset, but not the number one guy. That's why you extended Ian Happ. That's why you extended Nico Horner. You now have 2 years of Seiya Suzuki. You now have multiple years of Justin Steele. All this building up will be worth it if they make these big boy finalized stamp moves.
Facts.
And you have a top farm system. You see James Triantos won AFL Offensive Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this farm system's no joke, man. This went from a bad farm system to a farm system I thought, okay, it's good, not great, to legitimately a top farm system. You just hope that everything falls in place the way it did under Theo in 2015, 2016.
Hopefully. That's the hope. The other side of town, if things just, it's every gaffe that you can make that pisses fans off, this ownership has done. Like, oh, hey, sure, you give them a bone by firing the general manager, but then you don't interview anybody external and you just hire somebody in-house that wasn't good at their old job. And but yeah, you can do it. You say, we're not going to go after any high price salaries, and you cut or you decline the option on arguably the most popular White Sox player of the past 10 years. And then your popular announcer, you let him go. He wasn't out of contract. They let him go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hearing that they just didn't like Jason Benetti, and
How can you?
Like, we rave about Jason Benetti.
And he is a South Side till he dies type of guy. He was a fan of this team. This was his dream, but he was such a professional about it too.
I'm glad. I mean, any team would be glad to have him.
He's going to go do great in Detroit. I'm going to tell you that.
I mean, it's a shame that the Cubs didn't get the opportunity to bring him in. That'd have been cool.
Oh, so you want to rub it even further into our White Sox listeners?
No, it's nothing about rubbing it in. It's just he's really good. It would be nice for him to be able to stay in the city.
Well, I was selfishly hoping that Len Casper would come back, but it doesn't sound like that's going to happen.
No. So he's going to go to Detroit. He's going to do great things there, and hopefully he's appreciated there.
I'm sure he will be.
He is a really talented broadcaster, and I'm sure Steve Stone is not happy about this.
No, because those two had a great chemistry. And listen, if Jason Benetti left because he got a full-time gig as a national broadcaster, that'd be more understandable, right?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
But this is him going to another market, a rival market.
A rival, smaller market. This is not like, oh, you're the Orioles announcer and you're going to go to the Yankees. Like,
right.
Okay, it sucks losing you, but you're going to the Yankees. It's a much bigger market. You're going to a much smaller market to a rival team.
Right. And I mean, it's one of those things too, where you look and say, hey, remember when last year he did sign that extension, but remember there was kind of, I don't know if I classify it as drama, but it took some time to work that initial extension out with the White Sox. You remember that, right?
Yep.
And now here he is going to a whole other market. I mean, I was shocked when I heard that news.
Yeah, I was too. I was really shocked. I think that was a bad decision, and it was more of Jerry just being a dum-dum.
I don't understand what goes through Jerry Reinsdorf's mind. Don't you want to have your fans invested? Because I've talked to a lot of White Sox fans, and they've all said the same thing, that as tuned out and as done what they were with the White Sox, the team itself, they would still tune in to listen to Jason Benetti. Like, that was your last kind of attraction to the team last year for the fans, was listening to Jason Benetti, even though the team lost 101 games. You destroyed the trust of your fan base. The fan base has found a level of apathy, which you can't blame them for, but you could still bring them in with a good announcer. And if the rumors are true that he left because Jerry Reinsdorf didn't like this, that is vile.
Yeah, Jerry, as much as we shit on Ding Dong George, Jerry is the worst owner in sports. Worse than that guy that owns the Knicks.
I mean, he's ruining 2 franchises right now. Look at the Bulls right now.
The Bulls are terrible.
You see that loss against the Suns when they didn't have Devin Booker and the Suns didn't have a field goal for like 8+ minutes, and you still let them win?
Yeah, this Bulls team is bad. Jerry Reinsdorf is a piss poor owner, period.
He's so out of touch.
And the fact that he surrounds himself with yes men, he's never going to hear no. He's never going to hear, you know what? Maybe this is a terrible idea.
I feel like Jerry Reinsdorf has that trap door with the button under his desk.
Jerry Reinsdorf is Mr. Burns. Move to the left.
Sir, they moved your desk when they painted the room.
Like he's a vile man. Like, all right, maybe he's not a kitty toucher or anything, but he is, as far as like poor ownership goes, like he is the pits.
I mean, what did it say when he was talking about how his favorite baseball player of all time was David Eckstein? And Sean, there's something else we have to touch on too with the White Sox organization right now.
The best thing about David Eckstein is that his wife is Ahsoka Tano.
Wait, Rosario Dawson's married to David Eckstein?
No, she's the voice of Ahsoka Tano from the cartoon.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, wait, what? That's news to me.
No, Ashley Eckstein is the voice of Ahsoka Tano.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. I didn't put 2 and 2 together, honestly.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was the same Eckstein.
Yep. I met them both once at San Diego Comic-Con. Like, I was talking to her, and then he came up, and I was like, he's like, "Oh, I'm David." I'm like, "I'm a Cubs fan."
but the owner in my town says you're the best. But Sean, there's something I want to bring up really quick about the White Sox organization right now. Who's still there?
For as players or as
in the organization?
Drunken LaRussa.
Yes. Why? Is Jerry really that close to Tony La Russa that he feels the need to give Tony La Russa some satisfaction to be doing something? Tony La Russa, and this is a very serious thing I'm going to say. He does not look well. He is not in good health. He needs to be taking care of himself. Why do you still have him there?
Well,
I don't get it.
He's got to be the next manager when they fire one.
What, Pedro Grifol? But was Tony La Russa ever affiliated with the Royals?
I don't know, but you got to when you fire Grifol, you got to have somebody waiting in the wings.
And I want to say this too, that I don't want to go out and say that I automatically think Chris Getz isn't going to do a good job, because maybe Chris Getz could be a good GM, but what you worry is you're under the control of Jerry and probably Tony La Russa too. So what kind of input, how much input is he going to have? I really don't know how good or bad that Chris Getz could potentially be. I don't feel like it's right for me to judge what kind of GM he could be. Sure, there's questions considering, hey, he was head of development. Development hasn't been good. But as a GM, I don't know. I really don't know. But when you're under Jerry and you're under these rules and this culture, so to speak, how much wiggle room do you have to do what you really want or to fall in line with what Jerry wants? It's a valid question, right?
I think it's fair.
I don't know what they're going to do this winter. I don't know if they're going to get better. I don't know if they're going to get worse with the intention of getting better as a rebuild. I don't know. I have no idea what Chris Getz is going to do. Maybe it's better than we think, but right now we don't know. We just have no idea.
Yeah, he no matter if he's good or not, he's in a position where he can't win.
Right.
Because the infrastructure of this team is to lose and to not spend money, and it's this is a dysfunctional group where you have a meddling owner, and you're not allowed to spend money. You've got a very few farm system pieces in place. And your big league roster was supposed to be one that competed for the division, and you lost over 100 games.
In a terrible division.
Like, there's culture problems that rose up, and you're going to have to keep your manager because your owner's not going to pay another manager. Like, what does Grifol make? Like $1 million a year?
It's not what Craig Counsell is going to be making, that's for sure.
I mean, Grifol's whole contract is worth less than 1 year of Counsell's.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah.
But it is what it is. Talk of little bulls here. Alex Caruso should be traded.
Free the man. He deserves better than this. He was awesome in that game against the Suns. He was great defensively. He was great offensively. You wasted the Alex Caruso game of his life. Shame on you.
You've got Patrick Williams, who wants $200 million, and He's not good, but if you let him go, he's going to suddenly become awesome. You've got the owner or the coach who's implying that he's not in charge of the rotation minutes. Um, you've got your superstar who just isn't capable of playing a complete game and taking it to the next level.
Those last few minutes were just brutal. I don't know what else. I mean, you saw the way Zach LaVine played those last few minutes. That was just rough to watch.
It's just tough. Just you know, Zach did not have a good game. This team still doesn't shoot enough threes. Pat Williams now on the bench, got 3 points on 1 for 7 shooting.
Brutal.
At least they got their first round pick belongs to them at least.
Hey, is it tanking time at the United Center?
It's not winning time.
No, that's for sure.
But the other end, the Blackhawks, it's tough to talk about them because that they're still not a good team. But man, when they have flashes, they have flashes.
We're going to say this over and over. Connor Bedard is unreal. He had his first multi-point game in a 5-3 win against the Tampa Bay Lightning in Tampa Bay. He scores 2 goals, gets 2 assists. He is unreal, and he's 18.
Yep.
What a joy he is to watch. I can't wait to see him live for the first time next Sunday. I'll be there against the Buffalo Sabres. Not Buffalo Puke, Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, I mean, I was really hoping. It sucked because I couldn't watch the game on Thursday. I don't have ESPN Plus, and I'm like, this sucks because I'm
You
watching.
couldn't watch it on NBC Sports Chicago?
I think it was ESPN Plus game.
I watched it on local TV.
Oh, did you?
I did.
Oh, it said it was ESPN Plus. I'm like, I don't have that, so I didn't even try.
Well, local broadcast was here in Illinois on the normal so
well, that sucks because I was like, oh man. I'm like, I really wanted to watch it. I'm like, he's gonna get a Hattie, and I'm gonna be watching Tyson Bagent throw 3-yard passes.
You're gonna go and stick your head in just a bed of meatball sauce in misery. You're just gonna see blub 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 come up, and then the blubbing will stop.
But I mean, Connor, I don't know what else to say. Connor Bedard looks really good. Multi goal, multi assist game. It's Bedard is easily the best player on this team. I think we are seeing the stark difference between Soderblom and Mrazek.
You got to give it to Mrazek, man. He's been excellent.
He has been really good. Alex Vlasic has been very good.
It really sucks, though, that we lost Sonority on IR.
Yeah.
With Athanasiou and Taylor Hall also hurt. Sonority was playing pretty well.
Yeah, how long is he out for? I don't even know what the injury was. I just saw he was hurt.
Right. Well, he was placed on IR today, so we're not going to see him for a while.
Ugh.
We don't know about Hall or Athanasiou. Like, those are your other three playmakers basically right there. Though I will say this too, Corey Perry, for his age and where he's at in his career, has played pretty well as well.
He has. He has. I think he's found new life. We both thought that when the Blackhawks brought him in. They were like, I think he's still got something in the tank. I don't know what, but not to the degree of when he was younger, but there's still something there. I think something got reignited coming to the Blackhawks.
Well, I think him being kind of that veteran leadership, that guy that people look up to, because, obviously he was playing on a Tampa Bay team where he wasn't anything more than a complimentary low line piece at that point when you had a team full of star players. Where here, obviously Connor Bedard is the center of your team, and Corey Perry plays on that lower line, but he's looked up to by a lot of young players on that team, and maybe that makes a difference. And the fact that there isn't that pressure, when you're on Tampa Bay, the expectation is Stanley Cup, where with this rebuilding Blackhawks team, the pressure's not quite that high.
So, Luke Richardson uh, hinted that both Athanasiou and Hall could be back Thursday.
I hope. I really hope. Please, please, please. That's what I say.
Yeah, nothing on Tenorti. But I mean, it's we're gonna have some shit games, but we're gonna have some lively games. And when these young players have those shining moments, there's still a lot of room for this team to improve. But it's been fun for the most part. There's been a couple of clunkers in there out of a half or a dozen games. It's been a couple of clunkers, but other than that, most games have been either good wins or competitive losses.
Yeah, they almost came back and made a thing of that Devils game last week, but then they got an empty netter, and that was the end of that. And Bedard smashed his stick over the crossbar, clearly in frustration. But, Connor Bedard has the highest of expectations of himself. We've talked about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, everything that the whole bill of sale that we were sold on this guy has been point on. He's great.
Youngest Blackhawk to score multiple points in a game, I believe.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to watch him for years to come.
He's on like a 58 goal pace and he's 18 years old.
Yeah, he's essentially a point a game player right now.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. It's but good for him. I mean, he's earned it. He's worked hard. What was I going to say? Yeah, one thing I do want to say about Blackhawks adjacent is sooner rather than later, Patrick Kane's going to sign with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's any chance at all he goes to the Blackhawks?
No.
You think that ship has sailed?
That chapter is closed. That's done.
I just don't want him to go to Detroit.
I would have stronger feelings if the Blackhawks were actually competitive, but the way I see it this year, when it's a rebuilding year, it just kind of is what it is. And I really don't know how much Kane has left in that tank.
I don't know. I mean, he's not that old.
No, he's not.
I mean,
But I mean, he just had surgery. He's got a lot of miles on him.
that's true. The miles on that body.
Because I mean, you think of all the seasons he's played and all the playoff runs he was on.
I would just love to see the opportunity to see him on a line with Bedard, just for 1 year, just for part of a year. It is.
Activated.
It is. Tell me you don't want to see that.
I mean, it would be pretty cool.
You know,
But I think that they've locked into where they're looking to go. They know what they're looking at. They know what kind of players they're trying to get. It just, I've already accepted that the chapter's closed, and that just kind of is what it is.
what if, I'm just going to throw this out there. You've got cap space this year, right?
Yes.
What if Kane was like, you know what? I just want to sign this 1 year deal, show people I'm healthy, and get a multi-year deal next year. Do you think then that changes the calculus? Like, you know what? We've got some money burning, and that really ignites the fans, is seeing Kane and Bedard together.
No.
And we let him get healthy, let him go as a free agent somewhere. No? You're still not buying it?
No.
Okay.
That chapter just purely feels close to me.
Okay. I feel like the Jonathan Taves chapter is way more closed.
Well, I don't think he's even going to play again.
Well, no, he's going to take this year off, and he's going to come back next year.
We'll see. We'll see.
How often does that work out, where a professional athlete takes, after they've missed like 2 seasons, take a whole season completely off and then come back and ready to go?
With all the health issues you've had between concussions and this autoimmune disease that he has, it just doesn't seem plausible.
Man, why do the Blackhawks have so many players just, have to retire for weird reasons?
Yeah, I mean, you had the Hossa skin condition. Obviously Corey Crawford, Bickle,
Taves. That's a lot of guys with just like weird issues.
Yeah, with health conditions that don't seem as common as you would think.
All right. Has anybody heard from Corey Crawford?
I haven't seen anything.
Just like he just disappeared.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm going to go to the Devils. Nah, never mind. Psych. Disappeared. On a tropical island somewhere.
Well, remember, he missed all that time when he was still with the Blackhawks. Now, I don't like to speculate when we don't have cold, hard facts, but there were rumors going around on why that was. I'm not saying they're true. I'm not saying that's what's going on. I'm just saying that there's been smoke around a number of things. And my whole point is I really hope that he's okay. That he's doing all right. That's really my hope.
Was there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece, that we had quite the week in Chicago sports, and I'm glad we were able to cover it all.
Yeah, it was a crazy week. But that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter/X, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We think Ditka, and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like
Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7.
the Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.